Hi there, welcome back to my channel. So let's see where we left off. As I said at the end of my last video, Captain Jungho Yang was protecting someone important to him, so he was definitely not the killer. Even when he was released from custody, he was actually disappointed, but that didn't last long because, of course, he was also killed by negligence. He was not supposed to be dead, but that happened for trying to protect Mr. Kon. He had figured out who the killer was and why all these murders had happened. He just didn't manage to handle the situation properly or in time, but at least before dying, he gave us a name, Shindonga Seonjin. And so puzzle piece number 7 appears because even though Mr. Kon was in hospital and still alive, the killer sent the puzzle piece to the television station, and just as it appeared on TV, Mr. Kon died. What's certain is that the serial killer didn't want Captain Jungho Yang dead. He was only a victim because he stepped in to protect Mr. Kon. Since Mr. Kon died in a hospital, Han Saem's team realized that the killer must have medical experience, otherwise he wouldn't have been able to enter his ward and finish the job. And finally, a real suspect appears, which is Dr. Huang, who also happened to have a known talent, painting, but it quickly becomes clear that Dr. Huang only drew the puzzle pieces for Dr. Lee. So the serial killer is none other than Ina's psychologist, Dr. Lee. Once she realizes this, Ina goes to Dr. Lee's home, where she finds puzzle piece number 8. Calling it a home, it's a little bit too much because it's more like a circus. There were puppets, mirrors, lights, like a full-blown carnival. So puzzle piece number 8 shows a man on a throne, and the question is, who might that be? Someone important, someone above everyone else in the city, like the mayor. And yes, Mayor Kim jumps from the rooftop of the building where the infamous apartment is located, and his body is scattered everywhere, including Han Saem's face. It turns out Dr. Lee was lost from her mother in an amusement park when she was just 7 years old and was raised in an orphanage. Hence the amusement park theme on the puzzle pieces, pointing to a specific park, and that Captain Jungho Yang also grew up in an orphanage, the same one as Dr. Lee. That's why Captain Jungho Yang knew the real name and revealed it before he died, and he's also the one who helped her find those responsible for what had happened to her mother. But only now, in the end of this drama, it's revealed what actually happened. So let's see. Her mother had a small dining, which it burned down. Dr. Lee's mother died in the fire, and then the residential complex where the murderers occurred, or where 3 victims had owned the same apartment, was built on that site. Clearly, the fire was intentional, set so the building complex could be developed. Compensation was offered to the people who had small home businesses in that area, and everyone accepted except for Dr. Lee's mother, which refused to leave because it was the only place her daughter knew. She hoped that one day her daughter would come back and be able to find her, so she needed to reserve that familiar place for her daughter. And now we understand that everyone who died in these puzzle games had played a key role in that fire or had profited from it. Captain Jungho Yang had worked with Dr. Lee's mother, which is how he knew exactly who had been involved. He also knew what to give Dr. Lee so she could take revenge. He was the one who searched for her. So everything started from Captain Jungho Yang. After this, we also find out that Ina's uncle covered everything up, which made him very wealthy. he even received 3 flats in that complex, which he then registered under his niece's name. Later, he sold them to buy the house where he eventually died. As for the journalist, he lied in the article he published after the fire, claiming Dr. Lee's mother was unhappy with the financial compensation and had started the fire herself, all done on someone else's orders. In my opinion, the only time we see Ina truly vulnerable is right at the end, when Dr. Lee is waiting for her in the very house where she killed her uncle. It's the only moment when we see Ina show any real emotion. In this moment comes the final puzzle piece, fire. Dr. Lee takes her own life in the same way her mother died. She sets herself on fire in the amusement park where she lost her mother. What would have made this scene more believable is if we had seen her inject herself with some kind of sedative, something, because otherwise who would just sit and let themselves burn alive? How much self-control would that take? And the scream was just raw, intense. It actually made you feel things, the scream. And it's such a heartbreaking idea that Dr. Lee waited for her mother at the amusement park so many days while her mother was waiting for her at the restaurant, hoping her daughter would remember the place. They were waiting for each other, but the young Dr. Lee no longer remembered where her mother worked. So the end of this drama was very intense, and not just intense, but so sad in actually what happened. It was a misfortune event. After everything that happened, Ina tries to resign and turns to her usual self. But the drama ends in a positive way because a new strange murder is happening at least a year after all the previous events. And guess who turns up? Detective Han Sa-em and profiler Ina. Even though Han Sa-em's face clearly lights up with joy at seeing Ina again, she, as always, shows no emotion. I think the good ending comes because they will work together again. So, is this a happy ending? Ta-da!